Is my ghosted ex-wife possibly tracking me down? After finding out about my wife's infidelity, I escaped to the mountains. I'm not sure what the purpose of this writing is, but maybe it will be useful to someone now that I have put the past behind me and moved on with my life. In February 2018, I uncovered my wife's affair, which had been going on for 3.5 years of our marriage. I worked as a contractor, which sometimes required me to travel a lot, but I also had the option to work from home when I was not on the road. My wife had a lucrative career as a director of a technical sales company. Our marriage was great in my opinion, but it had become a bit tense due to my work trips and her increasing work hours. Background: I met my wife, now ex, 5 years ago at a friend's barbecue. We hit it off right away and felt a strong attraction. And to be honest, I felt lucky to be with such a gorgeous and eloquent woman. She seemed to like me for my rugged personality. We started dating, and soon we were inseparable and passionate, and our clothes would come off as soon as we saw each other at our places. We got married after 18 months of dating and moved into a spacious apartment while saving for a house. After the first 3 years of marriage, things began to shift. I was still madly in love with her, but I noticed she would pick fights over trivial things and get upset when I mentioned her late hours and frequent work events. She said it was part of the job since she was climbing the corporate ladder, or that was her justification. She said I had no right to challenge her since I was away for weeks at a time myself. I told her I could easily reduce my travel hours, and I actually only went on trips for 3 or 4 days every 5 weeks or so. These arguments were endless and never resolved. Looking back, I had no clue my wife was having an affair. I never would have thought anything of it, except for the fact that she kept coming home late from work and our sex life dwindled. I just chalked it up to her being exhausted from work. But my ego took a hit from being rejected so many times when I tried to initiate sex with her. I didn't see the secret texting I read about. On the other hand, she did have a company cell phone. She could have been using that since she spent most of her time in the spare bedroom that she used as a home office. Around September 2017, Kathy started returning home after work and then going to a work event for the night. This escalated from 1 evening per week to over 3 evenings per week. I don't usually get jealous, but there's no way she can go unnoticed. I know she'd have to deal with some of the guys in the office. She didn't seem interested in anything other than work. She was working with a lot of male executives and not many women. The first time I suspected her of cheating was about a month prior to D-Day. She had stopped at the store on the way home and asked me to help her with the groceries. I was getting a few bags out of the back of her car when I noticed a glinting pink bra under the front passenger seat. It was my wife's bra. I knew it was hers because she used to buy it from a certain apparel store. Now that I think about it, I know why she would take off her bra first. She always used to take off her bra under her clothes when she was in the mood. I don't know why, but I just got this sinking feeling in my stomach. I couldn't figure out why her bra was under the seat, so I left it there. It made me sick to my stomach. When I went back into the kitchen with the groceries, Kathy asked me if I was okay. She said I looked like a ghost. I just brushed it off. I tried not to show my annoyance or disbelief, but it was hard to keep my emotions in check. That night and the next night, I decided to try and see if I could figure out if she was having an affair or not. I began to think about all the signs I had overlooked. I didn't have any evidence except the bra incident, and we live in a big city, and her job is in a big office building downtown. I took a break from the affair for a while and thought maybe I should pay more attention to her. One Friday after work, I cooked dinner, put out plates, silver, and candles, bought a bottle of wine and a bunch of roses. She came home from work as usual, and I showed her the dinner I'd made and everything else I'd put together. She looked at me with a sad little smile and said she was sorry, but she had to grab a bite from me before she left, but she had to go shower first. My stomach turned, and I was speechless, and I don't want to tell you how angry I was at that moment. While she's in the shower, I put my company phone in her back seat. I've been thinking about this for a while now, as a way to track her location on my personal cell phone. I go in and throw the food in the trash with the flowers, and she comes out of the shower looking gorgeous as always. She says, "Okay, let's eat." I tell her no, you're going out with friends. She looks at me funny and asks if I'm mad. I tell her I'm disappointed that you never want to do anything with me. She gets mad and tells me to stop acting like a kid and that I have a short temper. I stand there and let it all sink in. "I'm sorry, I thought you wanted to spend the night with me for once," she says with a smirk on her face. She leaves in a rage. I pulled out my second phone and started following her work phone. She stopped about 20 minutes later at a bar she goes to with her work friends. I went out and found her car parked in the bar's parking lot. I parked across the street and waited for her to show up. I felt like such a stalker, but I rationalized that at least I needed to satisfy my anxiety. About an hour later, I saw her walk out with a man I recognized as an exec I had seen her with at work. He grabbed her by the arm and pulled her into a kiss. My stomach turned. My whole body went numb. They got into another car and drove off together. I tried to follow as fast as I could as the car drove away. They traveled about 10 minutes down the road to a hotel, and I parked on the street near the hotel. I watched them get out of the car and walk hand in hand toward the hotel. I had had enough. I was an idiot. I started hitting the steering wheel. It was over. Something inside me snapped. I don't know if I lost consciousness or had an out-of-body experience. When I came to, I decided I wanted a drink. This is when my life changed in ways I never would have thought possible. I started to drive out of town, reliving what I had just seen, and I am ashamed to say I was crying. I drove about 30 miles to the outskirts of town and found a nice little bar. I parked and sat down at the bar and ordered a drink. I think I must have looked death warmed over because the bartender, woman, mentioned that I looked like someone had taken the wind out of me. I half smiled and said, "You could say that." A guy sat down next to me and started a conversation. I wasn't in the mood to chat, but something about him made me feel at ease. We started talking, and after a while, the topic of my wife cheating came up. I was rambling about how I just wanted to get away from her and forget about her. He looked at me and patted me on the shoulder. He said, "Hey, you're not alone. This happened to me a couple of years ago. I believe that everything happens for a reason. Your life can change for the better or worse right now. That's up to you." Just hearing him say that really lifted me out of my funk. I know I am hurting, but I've always been able to think rationally, and he's right. We'll call him Ray. He's a country boy, but he's the kind of salt-of-the-earth guy I really like. He asked me when I was moving out. I guess I didn't think that far in advance. I know I can't be with her anymore, and I feel like I'm in a state of fight or flight. Ray said, "I empathize with your situation, and I have an idea. In the event that you feel like you have to leave, I have a travel trailer on my property, and it's not very good, and it could use some TLC. Why don't you come out and see if it's something you could live in, at least temporarily? I'll give you a good price for it. I have a great piece of property you can park it on, and you'd be doing me a favor by keeping an eye on it. It might be a good idea to get out of your situation. Just a thought." It took me a moment to register his thought. The bartender, who had been listening to our conversation, smiles. "Hell, honey, if I could have gotten away from my crazed ex-husband all those years ago, I'd jump at the chance to live in his trailer, anything to clear my head. I feel like I'm in the twilight zone, but maybe this is just what I need." I tell Ray yes, I'll give it some thought and maybe do it. We part after a while and arrange to meet at his trailer in a couple of days. I began to feel like I had a little perspective and a chance to get out of what I think is a nightmare mixed with a lot of heartache. The only thing I know for sure is that I will never want to be back with my wife. Cheating is one of the worst things I have ever done in my life, and it has always been the only thing that I would never tolerate. When I got home that night, I sat on the couch, and Kathy came out and said, "Where were you?" I turned around and asked her where she was. She said, "You know, I went to get some drinks." I asked her straight out, "Are you having an affair with someone?" She looked a little shocked but recovered and said, "Why would you ask me?" I told her I had heard she might be seeing someone from work, and she said, "Who told you that?" I said someone I knew but wouldn't give my name. She just said you were being ridiculous and that I was drunk and hallucinating. She asked me where I had been, and I set out to a bar to get some drinks with some friends. She just looked at me like she wanted to ask me more, but she just went back to our bedroom to go back to bed. I decided to go to bed on the couch because I now had confirmation that she had been lying to me for months. I didn't sleep, and I started to picture her in bed with him, and I was so sick and hurt and so sorry for myself. But then I started to think about Ray's trailer, and it's almost like a revelation to me, and the thought of it made me feel so much better. I think I must have something going on with me, but in the pain that I was in, I just instinctively went into fight or flight mode, and the fight part won out. We don't talk much the next morning, and we just go about the rest of the weekend like nothing happened. A couple of days later, I arranged to meet Ray. I drove to Ray's ranch. He owns a beautiful ranch. The trailer is about 26 long and has everything you need to live in a trailer. I had traveled in a travel trailer once before when I was in college on a spring break, and I loved it. I made Ray an offer on the travel trailer, and he agreed to the price. I practically stole it from him. He gave me the directions to his ranch, and I drove over to see it. It is a beautiful ranch, full of trees and scrub brush, and there appear to be nearby hiking and bike trails bordering it. Near the foothills of mountains, Ray has a small cabin on a hill overlooking his ranch. The cabin has water and electricity for his travel trailer. Ray will unload the travel trailer at the site and unpack it for me. Over the next few weeks, I tried to convince Kathy to tell me the truth, but all I got was gaslighting. I even told her point blank that if I found out she was cheating, there would be no going back. this only drove her further into her affair fog and left me with nothing but denial. The denial was so bad, it almost made me smile. I had no physical evidence of her cheating. I hated myself for not taking photos of the two of them. During this time of mental agony, I came to the realization that I wanted out of the marriage. Instead of telling Kathy how I felt about things right now, I started making plans. I started moving my stuff out of the apartment into the trailer while she was away at work. This at least made me feel like I was doing something. I noticed a change in Kathy over this time, and she was acting nice to me, but in my mind, it was too late. While she kept up with her company outings, I decided I needed a break too. In fact, when she was getting ready for the night, I got ready around the same time, and she looked at me and said, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm meeting up with a few friends," and she started to ask, "Who are they?" I told her, "They don't know me, and they wouldn't like all the shop talk," which is exactly what she'd say when I asked if I could go on one of her office trips with her. She had a hurt look in her eye and said, "Okay, have a nice day," and I said I would. I've started to make some new friends between working on the trailer and meeting up at the bar with Ray. In fact, it's led to some great times with a bunch of my friends and Ray's family. And if anyone asks, I've decided to moderate my drinking so I wouldn't fall into any bad habits. I mean, it would be so easy. About this time, Kathy told me she was going on a business trip the following week. I asked who was going, and she said the executive team and a few department heads. I looked at her and said, "I hope you have a great time with your boy." I wish I hadn't said that. It started a long back and forth. In many ways, I wished I had more information about her AP, but as Ray said, in the end, the only thing that matters is that she chose to expose you. She ruined the marriage. She can deny it or admit it, but the facts are the facts. Bloody hell. Ray needs to write this stuff up and post it for the world to see. Kathy's work trip gave me the chance to completely move out the rest of my things. So after Kathy went on her trip, I packed up everything I had that was of any value and put it in the car. I wasn't taking any furniture or anything like that, just clothes, work computers, and equipment. I wrote a note for her before I left, but after reading it again, I decided to keep it simple. I took a piece of paper and wrote, "I hope this was worth it," and put my wedding ring next to the note sitting on my kitchen table. It felt like a huge weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I felt liberated, no more hiding from the truth. I knew I would have some emotional baggage to deal with and some pain to deal with, but now, I had time to heal. I just needed some space, and I needed her to get out of my life as quickly and quietly as possible. Update: June 2018. Kathy sends me an email saying she has hired a lawyer and is going to file for divorce. I reply, "Okay, sounds good." Then she sends me a bunch of emails asking me to come and see her, and so on. She realizes this isn't going to get her anywhere. After a while, she writes that if I agree to a non-arbitration divorce, she won't be a burden to me anymore. I agree. A few months later, at last, I am free. Once I leave our apartment, I never have to see her again. There is no closure for me or for her. For a few months, I thought about her, and yes, there were times when I would think about her, and the pain would come out of nowhere. But eventually, I just didn't think about her anymore. Update 2, I am officially divorced and things are going well. In fact, I just met a beautiful girl on the trail, just down the road from my house. I was helping her with a flat tire, and we hit it off right away. She is gorgeous and sweet as can be, even though she is a couple of years younger than I am. She appreciates my lifestyle and calls me her mountain man. I am not in a rush to get married, but I am not ready to give up women altogether. I am still in my trailer and have no plans of changing my lifestyle anytime soon. I have simplified my life a lot and love the outdoors. It helped me through my divorce, my heartache, and everything in between. I know we all deal with these things differently, and I was fortunate enough not to have children and was only in my 3rd year of marriage. You do not have to live with a cheating spouse. Please, if this is happening to you, do not dwell on it. Life gets better after self-improvement. I wish you all the best. I just wanted to let you know about my encounter with my ex. I rewrote this post about 5 times just to make it easier to understand. As I mentioned in my last post, I thought my ex was trying to find me in an effort to patch things up or something like that. I moved about 2 hours away from where we lived. Last weekend, I saw her at a coffee shop that I go to a lot in the town I live in. I thought it was no accident that she showed up. Fortunately, I left before she noticed me. Update: this past weekend, I returned to town to do some grocery shopping and went to a local coffee shop for a cup of coffee and to work on some work-related documents on the free internet. As I was leaving the coffee shop, I heard someone call out, "Paul," and I looked across the street to see my ex-wife, Kathy, wave at me. Armageddon finally happened. As I stood there, she ran across the street toward me. She reached out to me as if for a hug. I instinctively held my hands up with palms out. She stopped and looked at me very hurt. She said, "Paul, I heard about your move out here and I was hoping to catch up with you. Can we talk for a second?" I felt like an animal trapped in a cage. "Sure," I said. "Let's just sit down somewhere and talk for a few minutes." She asked if she could come over to my apartment. I said no. She followed me down the block and sat down on a bench in front of a small store. She started talking to me about how much I had changed, how she liked my new beard, how she liked how my body had changed, how fit I was, blah blah blah. She put on a good show, and boy oh boy did she look sexy. She was wearing a pair of white shorts, a tank top, and her hair was pulled up into a ponytail, which I used to do all the time. My radar went on high, and I knew she was turning on the heat. I had to take a step back and see what was going on here. She starts by apologizing for the affair. She says that karma really took a toll on her after I left the company. The company found out about the affair and basically made the situation so bad that she quit the company. Her assistant, who at the time had a fiancé, was reprimanded and transferred to another position in the company. The fiancé accused her of causing him to move out, and she told his fiancé everything, which caused them to break up. She ducked her head a bit and started to cry. I was just sitting there, not knowing what to say, and she straightened up and gave me a look that said, "What do you want from me?" She wanted to say that she never wanted to have an affair with me, that she was seduced by the politics and position of the company, that she thought the AP manipulated her with the charisma and power of the company, and stupidly thought that she was manipulating him as well as he was manipulating her, and that she was going to tell me the truth, especially after accusing her of having had an affair. She hated herself at that time. The post-work drinking was an attempt to cope with the guilt. After I left her, she felt so stupid, so lonely, so lost. Her heart just collapsed with the loss. She broke it off with the AP right away. She thought that since I hadn't contacted her or talked to her, that she needed to find me to see if I could fix things for us and see if we could get a fresh start. She knows that we're divorced, but she knows that maybe we can have a fresh start. I just looked at her and let her take it. I'm paraphrasing, but here's what it said. "You think you can come in here and make me forgive you for everything you've done to destroy our marriage. I told you earlier that if you cheat on me, it's over. There's no forgiveness. There's no chance to start over. You killed our marriage the minute you walked out on me, and you think I'm stupid enough to believe that. I followed you that night, and I saw you going into that hotel together. You know that." I realized I was raising my voice, and people were beginning to notice, and she started to cry. She caught my arm and sobbed a little, and I let her sob on my shoulder before I nudged her away from me. She looked at me and said, "I know I deserve all this." I said, "Can you at least take me out to dinner? I don't want to walk away from this. I want us to talk more, and I want everything to be open. I want the time you gave me that you didn't give me. Paul, please. I know this might not be what you want to hear, but I really do love you. I didn't know how much until you walked away from me and broke me, and I broke you just as much. I can't forgive myself, and I will never forgive myself until I die." She started to hyperventilate, and she was sobbing so hard I had to pull her up and hug her because I felt like it was the only way to calm her. I realized at that moment that I had broken her heart, just as she had broken mine. I walked with her down a quiet path, and things quieted down a bit, and then I asked her, how did she find me? Did she hire a private investigator or something? She laughed a bit and said, "No, but I thought about it." A few weeks ago, she ran into Stacy and asked her how she was doing. Stacy let slip that she had seen me. Kathy got her to tell the whole story. She didn't want to tell me because I had warned her not to, but she wouldn't let me go until she said it. All she knew was that I was here in town and that I was in the area, so she started to come here on her off days to see if I was around. She blushed like crazy. I had to laugh a bit because that stupid Stacy can't keep her mouth shut. So we went to dinner, and we found a cute little spot with a patio, and I made sure we hadn't had anything to drink. I didn't want her to use it as an excuse to get rid of me, or say she was too hammered to drive home. We had a good conversation, and then I walked her out to her car, and she wanted to stay, and she pressed me on it and wouldn't give up. She said she hadn't been with anyone else since I left her, and she swears to me that I'm the only one she wants. I said no, it's too soon for that. She begged me to see her again, but I said nothing. She gave me my new email address, but that was all. She asked me for my phone number, but I said no, you'll just ruin it with texts and calls, and she cried about it. She said she'll be back next weekend if I'm interested. I didn't say anything. She said she'd email me and let me know when, where. Before she left, I asked her straight out if she would ever forgive me for cheating on her. She just sat there thinking. She said, yes, in time, but only if we see a marriage counselor or if we can work through this healing process with a lot of talk and maybe a contract. I said, okay, maybe I can do that in 5 to 10 years. She said, if that is what it takes, she'll wait. Then she took my hand in hers, and she looked me straight in the eye, and she said something that surprised me the most. God damn it, Paul. I love you, and I will do whatever it takes to prove it to you. And that was it. She left. I am still so shocked that she said that with such conviction, and I still can't see myself with her again. But I feel better. Right now, I can't even see myself with her as a FWB. A friend maybe, but damn it, I don't know if we'll ever get back together. Don't take this the wrong way, but second chances are hard to come by in my opinion. I went home, had a long run and a couple of beers, and I felt like I was on the right track. Can you guarantee me she wouldn't destroy that? I don't know. It's still very fresh in my mind, but I've got the time to think it through and put things into context. Okay, so this is going to be my last post. I did post my story on YouTube, but the mod keeps deleting it. Anyway, my ex found me and we talked after more than a year of me ghosting her. She really wanted to reconcile with me and start our life again. For those of you who wrote to me saying that I am going to be a beta blue pill fool and forgive her and go back to her, you are going to be very disappointed. This past week, she wrote me a very long email in which she said that she loves me and that she is sorry for the affair and that she wants to come back and spend the next weekend with me, and my response to all of this is to turn her off. I have been very happy living the solo life so far, living in this remote location and keeping my situation as simple as possible. I have been enjoying the company of a few women and friends, and at 32, I don't think there's any need to change things up. I have my very own self-determined roadmap, and I'm going to stick to it. When I responded to her email, I didn't give her my new number. I told her everything. I said, no, I don't want to make peace with her. I said I didn't trust her or know her anymore. I said I wanted to wish her the best and would consider her a friend maybe someday in the future. My vagueness really annoyed her. So she responded with something very revealing. She was very disappointed in my reply, but she also told me that she had gotten a job offer a few states away, and her real intent was for me to go with her. She knew my job was remote and I could live anywhere I wanted, and she thought I would consider going with her. In exchange, we'd get a brand new life in a brand new place. She had very little time before she left, and she wanted to meet me face to face and did the hard sell. Luckily for me, I'm going away for a week for work, so our time together is up. So she's out of my life now. I'm sure she'll send me a couple more emails for a while, but eventually she'll realize she's run out of time with me, and she'll have to find somebody else. And she might cheat on them too. I just thought I'd share the update. So guys, live your life to the fullest. Get rid of all that old baggage. Empower yourself to move on. Best of luck to you.